everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another Telequarium episode with the Alaska SeaLife Center. My name is Lindsey, and today I'm really excited to talk to y'all about skates. And we're also going to make an origami skate. Now, some of you might be saying, hold up, Lindsey, this is the Alaska SeaLife Center. I thought that skates were those things you roll around on at birthday parties. Well, you're not wrong, but skates are also amazing animals found in the ocean. They're related to sharks, and they look a lot like stingrays. And I've got a skate swimming behind me right now. And you can see that they really do look a lot like stingrays. But there are a couple of big differences, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, let's get started with our craft. The first thing you're going to want to need, it's really simple, is a square piece of paper. If you don't have a square piece of paper already, all you have to do is fold your sheet of paper into a triangle like so. And whatever excess paper you have, you just trim that off. So that's what I did here. And you can use any sort of paper. If you have origami paper, that's awesome, but I've made my skates with newspaper, reuse cards, anything like that. So once you have your square, the first fold you're going to make is that diagonal anyway. So if you've already done that, like I have, you're off to a good start. You just want to make sure that those creases are nice and crisp. So once we do that, we are going to make folds as if we're making a paper airplane. So you're going to fold like this. And then you're going to make another fold like this. And try to make those nice and crisp if you can. I am not the best at it, but you should end up with something that looks like a kite. And you can almost see the skate shape taking form. Now, our skate will be made out of paper, but skates in real life, they are cartilaginous fishes like sharks. And that means that their skeleton is made out of cartilage, which is a lot more flexible. So if you wiggle the end of your nose or your ears, that's cartilage. And as you watch the skate swim behind me, you can see it's a lot more flexible as it swims. It almost looks like a little Roomba gliding through the water. But they're really awesome creatures. And we will continue on with our skate origami style. So ours is not made out of cartilage, but it's made out of paper. Okay, so after you make that fold, you're gonna wanna fold this triangle over. So we're just gonna fold it like this. And get that crease in as well. And then once you do that, you will simply tuck this in between those two folds you originally did. All right, so we've got a big triangle here. And once you do that, you're going to make a couple more triangle folds. So we're gonna go even smaller. And just to give you perspective, this will end up being the tail, and this will be the front of our skate. So we're gonna fold it one more time here, make a smaller kite shape, and then we will fold this one right here. So hopefully you can see how we got there. Feel free to pause it at any point. I will stick around. But this is where we are at right now. So we've got this kite shape. Now, here in Alaska, we have around 14 different skates, and it looks like I've got some of the green screen in my forehead, but we have around 14 skates up here in Alaska. We don't have any stingrays. So if you're up in Alaska and you think you see a stingray, it's probably a skate. And the biggest difference between our skates and our stingrays are two things. One, our skates are laying eggs, laying egg casings instead of giving live birth like our stingrays do. And two, our stingrays have barbs for protection. Our skates don't have that. They have some spines on the top of them. That's going to help them protect themselves. But our stingrays are the ones with those barbs that you might hear about. But our stingrays, they only use those for protection. They're not going to be using those to hunt for food. They feed really similarly to our skates right behind me. So if you are in Alaska, you're probably seeing a skate. However, if you're in warmer waters, maybe areas where you might swim at the beach, you might run into some stingrays. And a lot of people are worried about stepping on stingrays out in the wild, but a really good thing to do is practice the stingray shuffle. It can also be a fun dance move. But all you do is when you go into the water at the beach, you're going to shuffle your feet in the sand instead of stomping, because our stingrays and our skates like to hang out in those flat, shallow bottoms. And those stingrays will be able to feel the vibrations and get out of the way, because no one wants to get stepped on in the ocean, right? So those are the main differences between our stingrays and our skates. But they are both cartilaginous fishes that are related to sharks. All right, so let's get back to our origami. So we're going to, this is kind of a complicated fold, but what we're going to do is open up this fold we originally did, and we are going to fold this inward, this corner. So we're going to fold that in, and then this should come right back up and make that same kite shape, but now we have another fold underneath it. So to do this again, I'm going to flip this around. And so we started out like this. We're going to open it up, and we're going to fold this corner in. So fold that in, and then this one I always have a tricky time with. But there you go. We should end up with that same kite shape, but now there's no folds on the outside. So once we have that, we are going to fold up our tail over to the top, which may seem a little weird, but it'll make sense once we finish the finished product. We're going to fold it up to where these folds are in here. So you just can put your finger there, or if you want to make a mark, you're more than welcome to do that. But we're just going to fold it over and try to line it up with the center best we can. And a good way to check that is by flipping it over and see how mine's a little bit off center. It's totally fine, but if you want a really precise skate, you might want to make sure that that's nice and lined up. But I'm going to leave it. My skate's going to be a little crooked, and I'm okay with it. So once you fold it up, you're going to fold this backwards to this edge here that you just folded. So we're going to just fold it a little bit more, so there is a little bit left over under here, but not a whole lot. And then you can try to make that crease again. Perfect. So let's take a break for our origami skate. And I'm going to show you guys, we've got, I mentioned earlier, our biggest difference between our stingrays and our skates is that our skates are laying these egg casings. And if you've ever seen these before, a lot of people call them mermaid's purses. And this is a really good way to determine different species of skate. They all will have different mermaid's purse shapes. But here in Alaska, we've got our skates that they typically will reach maturity around 15 years of age. So they are an older living species of fish. And once they hit that maturity, they're going to lay eggs throughout the year. So they can lay 20 to 40 egg cases. This camera's awesome. But they will lay them in these really cool things called skate nurseries in Alaska. These skate nurseries can be over a kilometer square area, and within that area there can be up to 100,000 eggs, which is absolutely amazing. These mermaid's purses will stay and incubate at the bottom of the seafloor for over 3.7 years, and then once they're ready, there will be a little skate ready to hatch, which is really cool. So if you've ever found these along the beach, it's a really popular find. People get really excited about finding them for good reason, because they are awesome. And let's get back to our origami skate. Okay, so we've got the tail. Maybe you can see the top part taking shape as well. This is another tricky fold for me especially, but we're going to fold in these sides to make it a little more narrow on the tail. And the best way I've found to do it is if you start at the end, start folding in, and then sticking your finger under this bottom part and pushing up. So we're just trying to fold it in a little bit. And once you get to the point where you can't really fold it anymore because of all the extra folds in paper, you can just fold it in there. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So fold it in. Like I said, I don't really have origami paper, so this is a little bit tougher to use. But it just goes to show you can use whatever you have around your house. You don't have to go out and buy origami paper. You might have a nicer skate, but it's not necessary. All right. And try and push those down. And this is what you should end up with for that. So right now we are looking at the underside of our origami skate. Skates have their gill slits on the bottom, but their eyes are on top and their mouth is on the bottom too, which is really weird to think about. Think about putting your cereal on a countertop and not looking at it and just eating without looking at your food. That's what skates have to do all the time. They're like little Roombas. And I can go back to showing you a feeding of a skate. So we've got our skates at the Alaska SeaLife Center. We're putting some food in front of them. They like to eat crustaceans, and you just took a big chomp. But yeah, you can see their eyes are right there on top. And if you're wondering what those holes are behind their eyes, that's a really cool adaptation that our skates have. They're called spiracles. And that allows our skates and our stingrays to hang out in the sand. Their gill slits are at the bottom, but that will pump water across their gills and help them breathe. So they don't have to be swimming all the time. A lot of our shark species, they have to constantly swim in order to have oxygenated water flow across their gills. So these guys have a really cool adaptation. But they are really cool animals. And like I said earlier, you can see them taking a lunch right there at the bottom of the seafloor. But they're not actually looking at their food, so a really cool adaptation. All right, so let's get back to our skate. So I did say earlier, skates are a fish. They do seem kind of weird. You can think of them as rolled out flattened sharks. But they still have their pectoral fins like a fish, and we are going to make their pelvic fins right now. So we're just going to fold these two down to make those pelvic fins. So make that crease there. Make another crease. So you got their pelvic fins. And then we can flip it over and we can see that we do have what looks like a pretty good skate. But we will try to make it a more dimensional just by folding it in half. So you've got your flattened one here. We're gonna fold it hot dog style, and you can crease that up. And you can even bend the nose down a little bit, help it out, give it some structure. So you can see our skate swimming around. But if you want to, you're more than welcome to add eyes with a pen or marker or spots. A lot of our skates are spotted. I will show you a really cool picture of a Bering skate's eye. It almost looks like there's a moon jelly on top of its eye, and it's super cool. So if you want to draw in those eyes, get your skate a little more realistic, please feel free to do that. It's really cool. But you can even zoom in on one. You can see those spiracles behind the eye that are moving and taking in water and helping him breathe. Got a beautiful pattern as well. All right, so like I said, if you want to draw in some eyes, I'm just going to do 2 little ones right here, kind of cartoony. But now you should have a skate swimming around the seafloor, which is really beautiful and cute. And with that, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today and creating a skate. I hope that you learned some more about these awesome animals. I think they're an underrated animal here at the Alaska SeaLife Center. A lot of people might pass them by, but they are really cool animals, and hopefully when you guys are able to come back and visit, take a look at the skates when you come visit. But until next time, thank you so much for joining us here, and I hope to see you guys again soon.